friends, I am Arpit and I'm here with today's analysis. Today is 7th of November and we are going to deal with the most talked about topic today, that is the USA presidential elections. These elections come once in 4 years. The outcome of these elections not only impact the Americans but the entire world. America, being one of the oldest democracies on this planet, is also one of the most powerful countries. It has influence all across the world. So the leadership over there, has an influence or has an impact on policies all across the world. With Donald Trump into the presidential chair now, he is going to have, impact all across the world, including India. Well, he has become the president for the second time. He was the 45th president and now the 47th president of USA. He belongs to the Republican Party and he is the second candidate from the Republican Party to serve as the president more than once, that is twice, because only twice can a person serve as the president. The earlier one was George W. Bush. He is the one who has defeated female presidential candidates twice. Last term, when he was fighting, he defeated Hillary Clinton and now Kamala Harris, which has defied any woman to become the president of the USA ever in the history of USA. Well, the proper impacts of Donald Trump being the president on India and on the world is left to be seen during his presidential tenure of 4 years. It would be too early to judge, but yes, we can only speculate as of now. In today's session, we are going to deal with the process through which the president is elected in USA, which is a complex process. We've tried to simplify it and put it in front of you. After learning that process, you can compare that process with the electoral process of the election to the president of India, because UPSC asks questions on these lines. Then we've also seen that how does elections to the US Congress. US Congress is basically the parliament of US. Like here we have the parliament, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha. In US, there is also this bicameral legislature, the House of Representatives, which is the lower house, and the Senate, which is the upper house. Elections to these houses, how they happen, we'll see that as well, because the president is not part of the legislature. He's not part of the Congress. He's separate. So all these things we will see. We'll also discuss the criticism of the electoral processes of the Americans, and in the end we will discuss the impact of Donald Trump being the president of America on India. Well, this is not the first time he's becoming a president. It is the second time, and in his first term it was a mixed bag. Some good things, some bad things. Yes, you know we expect largely continuity in our strategic relationship or partnership with USA. So let's get started and let's decode the USA presidential elections. Now let's get started with the main topic, that is USA presidential elections. Actually, there are 50 states in the United States of America, we know that. And this election to the president is an indirect election, not a direct election. First of all, you need to understand this. When I say indirect, people are not voting directly for Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. Then whom are the people voting for? The people are voting for electors, and these electors vote for the president. The people voting for electors, that is why they are indirect. How many electors are there? There are 538 electors in total, and the victory mark is 270. So this is this morning, 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock screenshot which I had taken. Trump had surpassed the 270 mark easily. 295 was the number of electors which he got, and 226 were there with Kamala Harris. These bright ones which you are seeing, Nevada and Arizona, these two states, the counting has been going on still, but the counting is turning out to be in favor of Republicans, means Donald Trump's parties. So, all these electors will go to Donald Trump as well. So the victory margin is not going to reduce, it is going to increase as of now, it seems. So we'll discuss who are the electors, how the voting is done, how electors are then voting for the president. All these things we will discuss. But as of now, we need to understand that one, Donald Trump is the new president. He will take oath on January 20th. Till then, he will be referred to as president elect. Kamala Harris has lost the elections. Third, the elections to the president of USA are indirect elections, not direct elections. And these elections were conducted on 5th of November. 6th of November, Donald Trump won the US elections. The next day, the result was declared. His rival Kamala Harris has secured 226 electoral seats and could not pass the 270 mark. He will be the second Republican to get a second term in office in 20 years. George Bush, a Republican, was the president from 2001 to 2009. Donald Trump is going to be the president from 2024 till 2028, and he was earlier the president from 2016 to 2020. So that is why second term he is serving, and any person can serve only maximum 2 terms. This also should be known to you. Now, the elections on November 5, these elections for the president happened and they were conducted where US citizens chose between the former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. US citizens chose not directly but indirectly. US citizens vote for the electors, then the electors vote for the president. Unlike direct election systems used in countries like France, the United States elects its president through a more complex multi-stage process. We will, try to make this more complex multi-stage process less complex for you in this session, in this week. The election process is governed by the US Constitution. Obviously, it is one of the oldest constitution in this planet, and the winner is determined not only by the popular vote but by the electoral college. Popular vote is basically the people voting, and electoral college is basically the electors who vote for the president. So it is not decided by the popular vote but by the electoral college, since the elections are indirect. The popular vote is total number of votes cast by people in an election. In a presidential election in the US, it shows how many people voted for each candidate. So there can be a possibility where more than 50% of the people are voting for Kamala Harris in total in America. But you know Donald Trump might have more number of electors who will vote for him, because that is the vote that will be counted. So we'll decode this, don't worry. Now, how does this happen and all the basic procedures and all, and the basic qualifying or criteria for a presidential candidate? He should be a natural born citizen of America, minimum age 35 years, US resident for the last 14 years he should be. Step 1, देखो, anyone can become the president, and the president does not necessarily have to have a political background. Like, for example, Donald Trump, he's a businessman, he did not have any political background. So he said that I want to contest. In the last term, 2016, on the opposite side was Hillary Clinton. She had a political background, and she was contesting these elections from the Democratic Party. He was contesting these elections from the Republican Party, as usual, this time also. So whenever some persons, multiple people can express their interest that I want to run for the race of the president, I want to run for the race of the president. So whatever, and they might have their own, styles of administration and all. Now, if their styles of administration match with the Republican style, which are largely considered to be rightist, nationalist and all, then they can go and join the Republicans. If their thought process is a bit of liberal thought process, then they can go and join the Democrats. It is basically the political parties over there, through internal election, they decide that who is going to be the presidential candidate. So, step 1, these criteria should be followed. Okay. And then, that person should be going for his, expressing his candidacy to the political parties over there, Republicans and Democrats. Then, through the internal politics or internal votings and all, which is done in the political parties, it is kind of internal party politics or internal party democracy. One candidate from the Democrats and one candidate from the Republicans is chosen to be their presidential candidate. Now, these two people will be contesting the elections, and step 3 is the general elections, which we are going to discuss in detail. These general elections happen in all the states of America, and through this electoral college, or that electors, they elect the president. And who vote for the electors? The people vote for the electors. The people do not directly vote for the president. This is what we need to understand as of now. So don't get confused. I'm making things bit simple and I'm repeating them because you should understand it properly. Total 538 electoral votes are there, and to secure majority, 270 has to be achieved, 50% plus 1. Now, is President of the USA part of the Congress? So, first of all, what is Congress? Congress is the legislative branch of US government. Like in India, the legislative branch is Lok Sabha, the lower house, and Rajya Sabha, the upper house. In USA also, it is a bicameral legislature, and in USA, we do not call it the parliament, we call it the Congress. So, it is bicameral, two houses are there, the Senate, which is the upper house, and the House of Representatives, which is the lower house. President is neither part of the upper house, neither part of the lower house, which is not the case in India. In India, the prime minister, which is the head of the government, has to be part of either of the houses. The president of India also is considered to be part of the parliament. Actually, the parliament has three components: Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and the president. So, in India's case, it is different. There is no exclusivity, but yes, in USA's case, the executive is not part of the legislature. There is mutual exclusivity. Executive, head of the executive is the president, and the president has its own council, means the ministers and all, which the president appoints. They are not elected, they are appointed by the president, and they are not part of the legislature. In India, the ministers are appointed by the prime minister, no doubt about this fact, but they have to be part of the legislature. If they are not part of the legislature, they get a time of 6 months to be a part of the legislature. If they do not become part of the legislature, they cannot be part of the executive, as simple as that. But here, they don't need to be part of the legislature to be an executive because there is mutual exclusivity. So, from this slide, we learned that president, head of the executive, has its own council of ministers, and both of them are not part of the Congress. They are not in the Congress. Who is a senator? Senator is that person who is there in the upper house. One similarity in India, Rajya Sabha, the upper house is a continuing house. In USA, also, the upper house, that is the Senate, is a continuing house. It never dissolves. A senator is a member of the upper Senate, which is the upper house of the Congress. There are 100 senators. So I told you that there are 50 states. From each state, there are two senators. However big the state may be, however small the state may be, doesn't matter. From 50 states with two senators from each state. No matter how big or small the state is, it has equal representation in the Senate. Term of a senator is 6 years. Here also term of the Rajya Sabha MP is 6 years. Okay. So these, 6 years are there. And every second year, one third of the senators retire and elections are conducted. One third retires, elections are conducted. One third retire after 6 years, elections are conducted. So the person chosen over here as a senator, let's suppose in 2024, will retire in 2030. Then the elections will happen for the one third people who have been chosen as senators in 2024. Who is a representative in the House of Representatives? Obviously, the lower house. There are 435 representatives in total. Senate में there were 100 senators. Here there are 435 representatives in total. Each state gets a number of representatives based on its population. States with more people like California have more representatives than smaller states like Wyoming. Wyoming has only one representative. Representatives serve 2-year terms. The term or tenure of the lower house for a representative is only 2 years. Here it is 5 years for the Lok Sabha. All 435 seats are up for election every 2 years. There are 535 members in the Congress, 100 senators, we saw it in the last slide, and 435 representatives in the lower house. So it is very simple: 0, 2 years, 435 seats, they dissolve, then again elections are there, then after more 2 years, these 435, here 435 senators will be chosen, representatives will be chosen, and here 435 representatives again will be chosen by the people directly. So technically speaking, according to this, elections happen every 2 years in America. Now this is all about the Congress, Senate, House of Representatives, upper house, Senate, lower house, House of Representatives. Tenure we got to know, and in both the houses, people are elected, these members are elected directly by the people. Directly by the people in both the houses. This is one such difference. In India, for the lower house, people are elected directly. In the upper house, people are elected indirectly through or from the MLAs in the state assemblies. They elect the members of the Rajya Sabha. Now, anyways, coming back to the presidential elections. Now, as I told you that the presidential elections are indirect. Indirect meaning that the people do not directly vote for the presidential candidate. Then whom the people vote for? The people vote for the electors. Electors then vote for the president. Obviously, electors are affiliated with the any of or one of the presidential candidate. So let us see this thing now. An electoral college is a system used in the United States to elect the president and the vice president. It is not a direct popular vote where the person with the most votes win. Instead, the US uses a group of electors from each state to decide who wins. Now, a group of electors means number of electors in each state they are there. How many number of electors are there in each state? How many number of electors are there in each state? Now, the simple calculation over here is that the number of congressmen from each state. Number of congressmen. Congress is what? Senate plus House of Representatives. This is Congress. So congressmen, like we call here in India MPs, member of parliament, that can be the member of Lok Sabha, member of Rajya Sabha. Anyone will be called as a member of parliament. In USA, we call them congressmen. So let's suppose in a particular state, in the House of Representatives, there are 50 seats. Just suppose. And Senate, though it is fixed, there are 2 seats in a Senate from every state. So the total number of electors will be 52 from that particular state. One thing you need to note over here very clearly is that these 50 plus 2 are only electors. They are not congressmen. When people are voting for these people, the electors, they are not voting for the representatives in the House of Representatives or the senators. Their voting is separate. So this is 52 number of electors. Now, when I say that their voting is separate, you need to understand one more thing. This is a bit complex, but yes, we'll try to simplify it. So let's suppose this year is 2024, where the presidential elections happened. So let's suppose this year is 0. Okay. Now presidential elections happen, a president will be chosen for 4 years. Now in the same year, let's suppose elections for the House of Representatives also happen. Then House of Representatives, the tenure is 2 years. Then again here House of Representative elections will happen. Then again over here House of Representative elections will happen. This is 4. Okay. Plus here presidential elections will also happen. So they will overlap. House of Representative elections, House of presidential elections. Now talking about the Senate. So Senate, every 2 years I told you that 1/3 of the members of Senate retire and elections are direct for the Senate. So every 2 years there are elections for 1/3 of the seats of the Senate. So let's suppose there are elections for the 1/3 of the seats of the Senate in this year. Then after 2 years again 1/3 of the seat of Senate they will be going to polls. Then here also they will be going to polls the next 1/3. Then 6 years, 8 years. Here the presidential election will not happen because presidential elections will happen over here. Here House of Representative elections will happen plus the remaining 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, like this it will go. So this is how elections happen in USA. And people, when they are going to vote for the presidential candidate over here in 2024, let's suppose, they will be casting a separate vote for their House of Representatives because every 2 years they are going to polls and this year they are going into polls. For 1/3 of the senators, there are 100 senators. So roughly every 2 years, 33 or 34 senators, they go for voting depending on wherever the senators are getting retired. So it is not like in the entire country, America, there would have been voting for the senators. Only those places where senators would have retired, There people could have voted. But yes, in the entire America, there would have been voting for the House of Representatives, because every 2 years House of Representatives goes to vote, and it is coincided with the presidential elections. And the president would be voted to. But yes, for the president, the electors, people would be voting for the electors. They will be voting for the president. People will be voting for House of Representatives. People will be voting for Senate if in their constituency senators are retiring. So this is how it goes. Number of electors in a particular state is equal to House of Representatives plus senators in that particular state. Electors are neither representatives nor senators. They are different. They are solely for the purpose of voting for the president. That is it. But yes, their number in any state is equal to the sum of senators from that state and the House of Representatives members from that state. Now, how does the presidential elections work? Now, let's focus solely on the presidential elections. Electors in each state has a certain number of electors based on its population. Electors are not senators or representatives, as I told you, representatives of the House of Representatives, the lower house. Senators and House representatives are elected to serve in the Congress. I told you how they are elected. Electors, on the other hand, are chosen specifically for the purpose of voting in the Electoral College during the presidential elections only, and after these elections are over, these electors, they are dissolved. How electoral votes are assigned to each state? We are not talking only about the presidential elections. I'm again repeating this. How electoral votes are assigned? Each state gets electoral votes equal to the total number of senators plus the number of House representatives. I've already told you this. So every state gets at least 3 electoral votes. 2 senators are there in every state, however big or small, plus 1 representative. So at least should be there in any state. For example, California, the most populous state, has 54 electors. 2 senators plus 52 representatives is equal to 54 electoral votes. Wyoming, one of the smallest states, has 3 electors. 2 senators, which will be there in every state, plus 1 representative. Formula: electoral votes for a state, number of senators, always 2, plus number of House representatives based on the population. So these are the number of electoral votes or electors. Now, total electoral votes in USA, they are 538 total electoral votes. So you might be wondering that the total number of congressmen should be equal to the total number of electors. Congressmen means people in the House of Representatives plus the senators, which is 535. But yes, here are 538. 100 senators plus 435 representatives plus 3 votes for Washington DC. These 3 votes for Washington DC got electoral rights from the 23rd Amendment Act in 1961. To win the presidency, a candidate needs 270 electoral votes. That is why 270 is 538 divided by 2, which is turning out to be 269 plus 1, that is 270. The popular vote on election day, the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November, voters in each state cast their ballots for a presidential candidate. Now, when voters vote, they are really voting for a slate of electors pledged to that candidate. They are not voting for the candidate. We need to understand this. In 48 states out of 50, candidates who wins the popular vote receives all that state's electoral votes. This is something which needs to be understood, and I'll make you understand this by an example. The exceptions are Maine and Nebraska, which divide their votes differently based on proportional system. Now, let us understand it from an example. If 57% of voters in California vote for Kamala Harris, so first of all, California is the state, and let us understand that how many electors are there in California. There are 54 electoral votes or 54 electors. People will vote for these 54 electors, and these 54 electors will vote for the president. Now, 54 electors in the state of California may be divided on the basis of their constituencies. Let's suppose a district is a constituency. So, there are 54 districts in California. Let's suppose, okay, or 54 constituencies in California. That would be much apt. So, these 54 constituencies in California, there will be one elector in each constituency, one elector of the Republicans, one elector of the Democrats. People will vote for these electors. Now, once the voting is done, it will be measured that how many people voted for collectively in that particular state in California, how many people voted for the Democrats, how many people voted for the Republicans. So let's suppose the popular vote 57.5% in the state of California is with the representatives or is with the electors of Kamala Harris, the Democrats. Then listen to this very carefully. Then all the electors, all the electors of California state, 54 electors, will go to Kamala Harris. They will fall in the kitty of Kamala Harris. This is, sounding very, different, but yes, it is how it is. Then over here, another example I've taken of Texas. In Texas, there are 40 electoral votes. 40 electoral votes means 40 constituencies where 40 electors from Republicans are standing, 40 electors from Democrats are standing. People vote. And in the total state of Texas, it will be counted that Republicans got how many percentage of votes by the people, that is the popular vote, and the Democrats got how many percentage of votes, that is the popular vote. If the Democrats get more than 50% of the total votes polled in the state of Texas, means popular vote is in favor of the Republicans, all the electors will go to the Republicans. Like, for example, in this case, Donald Trump has, the Republicans had scored 56.3% of the votes. Kamala Harris had scored 42.4 percentage of the votes. So here, Republicans have surpassed the 50% mark. All the 40 electoral votes will be going to Donald Trump. All the 40. Here, all the 54 will be going to Kamala Harris because she has surpassed the 50% mark. So, this is how it is. Role of electors after popular vote. What will be the role of electors after popular vote? Meeting of the electors will happen after popular vote. See, popular vote means people are voting, and if the popular vote surpasses 50% mark in any state, all the electors will be going to that particular president or that particular party, and these people will be voting for the president only, which which party has won that state. So after the popular vote, electors meet in December in their state capitals to cast their votes for the president and vice president. Vice president, we have mentioned it for the very first time. Vice president is always tied with the president. Running mate, it is called as. So remember, the political party is deciding the presidential candidate. Along with the presidential candidate, the vice president is also decided. And they contest these elections as a team. If a president wins, the running mate of the president automatically wins. It is like this. Most electors vote based on the results of the popular vote in their state, but they are not legally required to in every state. There are some faithless electors. If an elector votes for someone other than the candidate they promised to support, they are called faithless electors. So, there can be a possibility like the Texas state, which I told you, all the electors were not with Donald Trump. Some of the electors were with Kamala Harris, but since Donald Trump surpassed the 50% mark, so all the electors are now going to Donald Trump. So there can be some electors from this state of Texas which can say that I know I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris only. So those electors will be called as faithless electors. Some states have rules against this and faithless electors can be replaced. In 2016, there were 7 faithless electors, but their votes didn't change the overall result. Counting the votes, in January, Congress counts the votes of the electors during a joint session. If a candidate gets 270 electoral votes, they are declared as the winner. Now, what happens if there is a tie? This is also very interesting proposition which we should know. Now, in case of a tie, first of all, a tie, has it happened before? Yes, it has happened twice, 1800 and 1824. Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr had the same number of electoral votes. In 1824, Andrew Jackson, John Quincy Adams, and 2 other candidates had split votes. Now, if there is a tie, no candidate receives a majority of electoral votes. 538 है ना, what if 269 happen? Quite a possibility, it can happen. Then the decision is thrown to the House of Representatives, that is the lower house. House of Representatives having representatives from all the 50 states. I would say 435 members are there. In this case, each state's congressional delegation casts 1 vote to choose the president. So 50 votes will be casted. A majority of 26 votes is needed to win. If 26 votes are achieved by a particular candidate, then that person becomes the president. What if 25-25 happens? Then we'll see what it is there. The Senate would then select the vice president. Senate means the upper house. This upper house will select the vice president, which each senator casting one vote. So there are 100 senators, 51 votes are required over there. If no winner is chosen by January 20, the inauguration day, the vice president becomes the acting president until a decision is reached. So, this is how things happen in American presidential elections. But yes, there are some criticisms of the collegium system or the electoral college. We need to understand that as well. First is winner takes all system. So, as I told you that in any state, if a popular vote for a particular candidate is surpassing 50% marks, then all the electors of that state go to that person. So, the winner takes all the electors of that particular state. That is something which is concerning. Disproportionate influence. Small states like Wyoming have more power per person or have more representation per person because population is very less. Senators to two will be there in every state, whether how small or how big the state may be. So it is like this. So there is disproportionate representation. Popular vote versus electoral vote. Popular vote is vote which people vote, and electoral vote is the vote which the electors vote. So in 2000, George W. Bush versus Al Gore, and 2016, Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton. The winner of the popular vote did not win the election. So let's suppose over here George W. Bush became the president, Al Gore lost the election. So Al Gore had, in total, if I count of America, in all the 50 states, if I count the popular vote, means the people voting, how many people voting for which candidate? The more number of people voted for Al Gore, but George W. Bush had more number of electors. Why? Because see, in a particular state, if Al Gore is having 80% of the popular vote, 51 is required or 50.1 is required. But if Al Gore is having 80% of the popular vote, Al Gore will have all the electors of that particular state. But yes, in multiple states, if George W. Bush is having 51, 52% of the votes, 50.5% of the votes, win margin is very low. But yes, that is only required. If you have to surpass the 50% mark, you'll get all the electors. So all the electors were in the favor of George W. Bush. In 2000 or 2016, Donald Trump. But overall popular vote, if we count, it was more with Al Gore in 2000 and with Hillary Clinton in 2016. So the popular voice is not properly or adequately represented in the American presidential election. That is one such criticism of this electoral process. Now, the last topic is probable impacts on India. That is very much important to understand. However, see, nothing is concrete. It is going to be, known with time. But yes, there are a lot of speculations, and on the basis of those speculations, I have formulated this. First, trade. India's exports can be dented as tariff wars between India and USA was the hallmark of previous presidency of Donald Trump. However, on the other hand, it can be positively impacted also because with the Donald Trump administration, we started discussing the free trade agreement, which was brushed aside by the Biden administration. So if a free trade agreement comes into picture, the tariff wars will automatically be sidetracked and trade with USA can increase. So we need to look closely on this front. Defense cooperation. Now, this can benefit India. America has already started supplying or started giving us technology or transferring us technology for manufacturing defense products. America has become the largest export destination for defense exports from India. Most importantly, Donald Trump is keen on containing China and he will be keen on increasing India's defense capabilities. So, we can see this particular domain to be deepening and deepening more and more. Immigration. Illegal immigration, so definitely will be impacted. He is staunchly against it. However, we are also against it that illegally you should not migrate to any country. If someone illegally migrates to our country, we will also have a problem. But the legal immigration will also suffer because of the protectionist tendencies or policies of Donald Trump. He wants more job for the Americans. He wants more economic activity for Americans. He is after all a nationalist. So it will be very, I would say, difficult to predict as of now what exactly will happen. But yes, seeing the large, I would say, core philosophies of Donald Trump, you know, immigration to America will be difficult. Granting visas or getting visas to America can be difficult again. So this can be impacted. Cut on outsourcing. Now, see, Donald Trump, America largely has been of this viewpoint that it has outsourced its secondary sector, manufacturing sector, like for example, Apple. All the products are being manufactured either in China or in India now. But Donald Trump is of this viewpoint that why are we outsourcing industrialization? Why can't we install these industries in America? Make America great again was his tagline. So this can be impacted negatively with India, losing out on outsourced industries from America. Then geopolitical conflicts, Russia-Ukraine war can see, a decisive moment as Trump talks about stopping funds to Ukraine. West Asia, Trump has been very tough on Iran, and that can be problematic for India as well. USA's support to Israel will increase. So, complexity in West Asia can increase. But there can be more impacts which will be unearthed with time. And we will be discussing about these impacts in detail when these things will be there in news. Because Donald Trump likes to be in news. He's such kind of personality. So with this, we have come to an end of today's session. I will be seeing you tomorrow now with more such informative news pieces. Till then, you guys very well know what to do. Keep studying, keep reading, keep writing, and most importantly, keep revising. Namaste, Jai Hind.